We want to give honor to God, our Creator, our Provider, and our Redeemer. We love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our strength. And we love our neighbors as ourselves as we give honor to our founder, Mildred Miller, to His Holiness of Blessed Memory, Master Malvin Davis. We give honor to the Wiseman Board, Boards at Large, the Mothers Board, and to this congregation, for those who have gathered here, we greet you with Hotep. Peace abide. Shalom. So next we will have a reading of our scripture, which is the 104th Psalm. Just to let everybody know that I have muted the others so that um, we can go through this opening part. So for our 104th Psalm, we're beginning. Bless the Lord, O my soul, O Lord my God, thou art very great, thou art clothed with honor and majesty. Who covereth thyself with light as with a garment? Who stretcheth out the heavens like a curtain? Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters? Who maketh the clouds his chariot? Who walketh upon the wings of the wind? Who maketh the angels spirits his ministers a flaming fire? Who laid the foundation of the earth that it should not be removed forever? Thou coverest it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hastened back. They hastened back. They go up by the mountains. They go down by the valleys into the place where that which shall fall thou hast founded them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not against to cover the earth. He sendeth the spring into the valleys which run among the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quench their thirst. By them shall the fowls of the heaven have their habitation, which sing among the branches. He watereth the hills from his chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of his work. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth, and wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face to shine, and bread which strengthens his heart. The trees of the Lord are full of sap, the cedars of Lebanon, which have been planted, where the birds make their nest. As for the stork, the fir tree is her home. The high hills are a refuge for the wild goats, and the rocks for the conies. He appointed the moon for seasons, the sun knoweth his going. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. The young lion roar after their prey, and seek their meat from God. The sun arises, they gather themselves together, and lay them down in the dens. Man goeth forth into his work, and his labor until the evening. O Lord, how manifold are thy works! In wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of their riches. So is the great and wide sea, wherein all the creeping things innumerable, both small and great beasts, they go to the ships. There is the Leviathan, with whom has made to play therein. They wait all upon thee, that thou mayest give them their meat in due season. That thou givest them, they gather. Thou openest thine hand, they are filled with good. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to dust. Thou sendest forth thy spirit, they are created, and thou renewest the face of the earth. The glory of the Lord shall endure forever, the Lord shall rejoice in his works. He looketh on the earth, and it trembleth. He touches the hills, and they smoke. I will sing of the Lord all as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have a being. My meditations of him shall be sweet. I will be glad in the Lord. Let the sinners be consumed out of the earth, and let the wicked be no more. Bless thou the Lord, O my soul. Praise ye the Lord. I've read the 104th Psalm in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Blessed Mother. Amen, amen, amen. And now we'll have our Lord's Prayer. Uh, everyone is muted, but you'll be able to hear me saying it. And I just ask you to repeat after me as we say it together, not repeat after me. With the Lord's Prayer, we want everyone to say it together. So please, let's repeat the Lord's Prayer together in unison. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen, amen, amen. Next on our program, we're going to do we're going to do a song, Come Thou Almighty King. And with the song, I'm going to ask, you are muted, so you'll be able to sing along with us, or sing without disturbing anyone else. You know, if we turn everybody on, we would interrupt each other as we sing. But we're going to do it, I have it set up now so that you should be able to sing without any problems or interruptions as we do our song, Come Thou Almighty King. So let me get it going here. And as I said, the first line of it is Come Thou Almighty King, if you don't remember the song. So Come Thou Almighty King. Help us thy name to sing. Help us to praise, Father all glorious, or all victorious. Come and reign over us, Ancient of Days. So that was our song, Come Thou Almighty King. And we'll go to our next item of service, which is the meditation. And with this meditation, I would like for you to repeat after me. Everyone should be muted, and so you'll be able to repeat after me with no problems. Like I said, if everybody's on, we'll interrupt each other's talk, but this way we can say the meditation and not have problems of us crossing each other when we do the meditation. So for the meditation, again, please repeat after me. This is the meditation I call Appointed by God. Here we go. I was wrought by the Lord of heaven to fulfill a majestic purpose. I strive to be a king among kings, serving the master of all. I strive to be worthy of the appointment that God has bestowed on me. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Amen, amen, amen. And thank you for joining in that meditation with me. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we're looking at, for those who can see the screen, I know everyone is not looking at the screen, but for those who can see the screen, you can see an Adinkra symbol called Adinkra Hini. And Hini is the Akan word for king. So Adinkra Hini just means it's like the king of the Adinkra symbols. This symbol is made up of three circles, a smaller circle, a medium-sized circle, and a larger circle, and they're all just getting larger and larger and larger. And it said this is supposed to be this is the king of symbols because so many other symbols are based on it. Is one of the ways that they say this symbol came about. But for those who can see the screen, there's also a picture of a drop of water falling into a pool of water. And when you have that drop of water falling into a pool of water, you'll see that it makes that same type of circling patterns like you see in a Dinkra hymn. That drop of water in the pool of water, just like we are drops of water within that pool, which is God. So, but when you drop a water into put a drop of water or add a drop of water to a pool of water, it starts making this circular pattern come out of it. In fact, when I was in martial arts and Oriental philosophy, one of the things they said that you had to develop in the mind of a person who was practicing karate was to have a mind like water. And what it was really saying is that your mind can be symbolized by water, and being symbolized by water when you are in a battle, that you want your lake or your pool to be like a calm pool. You want it to be calm and flat and peaceful. You don't want it to be like an ocean where you got waves and other things stirring up in the water, or you don't want to be a pool that is all stirring around and confused, because then you won't be able to see when something is approaching you or something is doing about to do something to you. But if you're like this nice, cool, calm, collected lake, that when something enters that lake, then you will see those ripples. And so it believes that to be able to go into battle and to do battle, you need to be calm so that you can be more reactive. So you're calm because it makes you more reactive, not less reactive. You're at peace because when you're at peace, you'll be able to see or comprehend the things that are coming at you better than if you're already splashing uh, and got all kind of waves, unnecessary waves in your lake or your pool. Then you won't be able to know when someone else introduces something to your pool. And with this Adinkra symbol, there are some proverbs that go with it. And one of the proverbs that go to said is, no matter how small a king is, he is not carried by one person. And so one of the things they're saying is that, even though you may think you're a small king, you will always have others with you. It says, so it's not carried by one person, no matter how small he is, that king will have those who will be of a help to that king. And another of the proverbs that goes with Adinkra about the king is, he who wants to become king in the future begins by learning how to serve. So it's saying if you want to be a king, you actually need to learn how to serve. Because a king in African tradition is a more of a servant to the people. He's not just there to just keep taking and taking from the people. The African king is the servant of the people. He's one there who helps them to everyone to guide and work together. That is the true purpose of the king. In fact, I was looking at sometimes when you look at some of the African words that they have for king, they are uh, kind of different from what our concept of king, because there's one people of Africa, and I think it's the Iwe people, that their word for king has to do with the nurturing of a child from a breast, a suckling from a breast. And that's what their word for king is, because they feel that the king should be one that nourishes and suckles the people around them, that they should be giving strength and courage and food and sustenance, that the king manages these things, just that the people then being like the children, and the king being like the aspect of a mother that nourishes the children, as far as being a king. So when we think of the word king, just saying that we don't need to always take the normal view of it, that a king is just someone who takes and takes and takes, that the king actually can be one from the African standpoint that serves and nurtures the people around him. Now, again, we want to look at even the Hebrew definition of the word king. And we're going to look at two words that they use, not all the words, because many times in the Bible, when they're saying king, the Hebrews had names, many of their names when that they translate a king are talking about various types of kings. Like they might be talking about the king of Asia or the king of some other place. Like Nebuchadnezzar would be the one who was the king of Assyria, or the leader of Assyria. But usually when they're talking about another Hebrew king, the two words that come up most are the word Melech and the word Jehoiakim. Um, and Melech, as a word that means king, uh, actually compares, when you remember in Hebrew, they only have consonants, no vowels. And so this word Melech would be formed by three vowels, the M, the L, and the one that's more like a K or K sound, a ka. And that's the word that they use for king. Now that same three letters are also used in the word angel. And I say that because if you look at the origin of the word king, it just keeps tracking back to king. But in Jewish uh, commentary, they also often compare the word king to the word angel because of the similarity of the letter structure of the two. And an angel, from the sense of the Hebrew word, is a messenger. That the word that we see as angel in the Bible from the Hebrew is often a messenger because they believe that the angels that they wanted to be involved with were angels that were bringing messages to them that came from God. So angel was this messenger. And so this king, that's why we, a lot of times when we look at kings, they say that kings are appointed by God or kings are somehow connected to God. Kings are actually supposed to be there to bring us messages from God. So when you're thinking about you, and because what we're talking about is you supposed to have that king spirit within you, part of what you want to be is make sure that you are bringing forth the messages of God. And the other word that they use for king is Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim is a word that means the Lord's appoint. And that's what they would, and they were usually, when they were talking about the king of Judah, they would talk about the Jehoiakim. And the Jehoiakim meant that that king had been appointed by God. And our concept of how we should be those Christian kings, we let the Christ force within us make us a king. We should think that it is an appointment. It is something that God has inferred upon us, and that kun, which is the last part of that word, lakun, is means to be firm. So, or it can mean, it translates to a root. It means a point because it means to be firm, how it gives you that firmness, that strongness, and being that king that comes from God. Um, Usually about this time I give, let me do that because I want to see if there are any questions or comments from our people about what we've talked about so far and when we're going to talk about them before we go into the lesson. So I'm going to unmute all for a bit. And does anyone have any comments you'd like to make about that king? And let me ask another way. Do you feel that Christ's spirit within you makes you a king?
Yes.
Anyone? Deacon Jackson? Yeah. And how did what's what are some of the ways, or do you have some ways that you've seen that that Christ spirit within you have made you more king-like? What are some things you think that makes that it gives you as far as making you a king?
Well, I think one of the things is more conscious wise, and another way is to know that we don't have to be fearful.
Hmm.
You know, fall under when it says God gave you a spirit of power and a spirit of love and a sound mind.
It's so true. And when you're saying not being fearful, I think that comes from the fact that Christ's spirit gives you a courage to face life. You know, many things that we see from people, the crazy way they act, and thinking that they have to do all kind of things, like they have to lie, or they have to steal, or they have to cheat. It's because of that fear they have of not having. And when you are have that Christ spirit within you, I think it fills you with a courage that helps you to be able to face things in life that you don't have to live in that fear that cause people to do so many wicked things. You know, that fear and selfishness helps you or encourages people to do so many hurtful things to others. And a lot of times when they're doing it, they're not doing it with the thought that, oh, I'm going to hurt another. They're doing it with a thought that I am going to create something for myself, or I'm looking for something for myself, or I'm somehow protecting myself. You know, a lot of things that we hear now about people talking about um, white supremacy. And when you look at a lot of things that when they're talking about white supremacy, one of the first things they want to talk about is how they're doing this to protect white women from the ravages of these other people. So it's that, and they play on that fear that gives them that excuse. And remember, we've talked before about no excuses, because a lot of times when people do their things, they still, for their spirit to work with them and to find some type of comfort within them, they have to find some type of excuse on why they're doing these things. And oftentimes that excuse is based on the fact that they are fearful inside, and that fear inside of them is looking for a reason or looking for an excuse to to uh, to do something that really doesn't have to be done. And when you have that, I believe that Christ spirit within you, that true Christ spirit within you, not the ones that they fake and tell you that this is a Christ, that you can say that you have that courage that I think we're going to be talking about in this king thing. Does anyone else? I know a couple of you. I have a couple of people muted, but um, does anyone else have any thoughts about that kingliness that we get from the Christ Spirit? Because I believe that this lesson we're talking about in Leo is trying to help us to see that that is part of the reason that we have this lesson, or the spiritual lesson of the Leo, because you need that courage, you need that um, tenacity that comes from that is much like a lion spirit, to be able to get the blessings that you are to get from God. And I even think that many times we don't even recognize of how it has given us that godly Christ spirit. And others can kind of see that and even get jealous of it, because they see that, why is this person so confident? Why is this person seemingly uh, uh, able to accomplish things where I can't accomplish that? And know that many times from that Christian Christ spirit within you, you're not trying to accomplish things in fear. You're not trying to do things just to hurt others. You're doing things from that spirit of godliness within you, of trying to be excellent. And so it gives even the way you things a difference to it.
Well,
So
I, I wanted to say, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I like the point that you brought about that a king should be somebody that wants to serve.
Hmm.
I mean that you should be of service to people. You
Yes.
have a lot of leaders who are not being of service.
Hmm.
They're selfish and they beat their workers down. So if you want to be in a position of leadership, you should the Christ, and you experience the Christ experience. You're having the Christ experience. you should be a person that wants to serve, be of service to mankind. Because a lot of these leaders, they don't have that. Well, they do not have that. And
Mhm.
I look at been looking lately at a lot of the British movies and stuff. And well, as you were talking about king, the qualities of a king, I was thinking, oh my God, those British movies are portraying people. Most of their kings were taking stuff, and now
Mhm.
they were not feeding their people. They were not doing that. So I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So we should, if you want to be a leader, you want to be a king or somebody like that, you should be a person that should have this spirit to serve.
Yes, and to serve all is another way people will get excuses is they'll think that because in a lot of those movies, it's not just always just kings, but it's the aristocrats. You'll see the aristocrats where they will own property, they will own land, they would own factories, and they wanted most of the money from those factories to go to their family, to their people, and the other people would be treated like dirt. The workers would not be getting the things they want. And when people and when God talks to us about servants and the way masters should deal with servants, God talks about masters dealing with servants in the spirit of love. It talks about them doing as much for the servants as they would do for members of their own family. But when you look at when man does it, they don't do it that way. They look at the servants as uh, should uh, should be getting less than those that they consider to be the aristocrats, and that everything that the servants don't need to, even here in America, the people, the workers, they don't. Do they need health care? No, they don't need health care. Do they need vacation? What is vacation? All we want to do is just work them and work them, and use even government to not even encourage, a lot of things they're saying now about why they don't want to give certain incentives to the people is that they think if they help people who have right now, many of them don't have a way to pay their rent, don't have a way to feed their families. If they give them too much money, then they're saying, oh, they don't have an incentive to work. So it's almost saying that we want to keep underpaying them because we think if we're underpaying them, the people will compete for the jobs, and in competing for the jobs, we can pay them less. That is not the way to try to take care of a country. You a king that was really the true spirit of a king, and knowing that you're supposed to be trying to bring forth the message of God, the things that the way God wanted us to live together, the things he was talking about living together in peace and harmony is what I'm trying. It's the way I look at the king. That he was that the king would feel that I need to put a system, things that are in place that will help everybody to be lifted up. And it's not that we were saying those who are in the upper positions won't be able to thrive or they won't be able to get things, but it's saying that everybody has needs and that kings should be looking at the needs of all and not saying, well, this group of people, I'm going to give them some better things, and other groups of people, we're going to leave them with nothing. Um, is it, you had some more to say, or?
Now,
Yeah, I
I
just
had another thought is that I thought that about it as you were talking. I think when you first started, you said something about that the African way they felt that the king was appointed by God, and then I was thinking I was like and then why when you see all those English movies, I guess because I'm all wrapped up in the English,
Mhm.
but they had a king and they had like a priest, and it was like the priest was the one that was dealing that had the dealings with God, and the king was just the one that had the dealings with, with just gratiating himself with riches and stuff. That the priest was getting the money from the priest was getting the money from the people, and between him and the king, they were, getting. It was
They
like
were
the
ripping the people
church
off.
was
Right.
more in charge. Looked like to me at one point. Is that true?
English, yeah, well,
More so than a king.
the what it's like one of those things that what had happened was this is what had happened was is as we're talking about when the Catholic Church came about. Now, to go into the history of it, remember people already had kings. They were under Roman rule. If you think about the Roman Catholic and the Roman rule, then there were other kings that were set up first in many of these places. So when you're talking about the Christian church being organized uh, in about that third, what do you call it, the fourth century or the 300s time time period, and the organizing of the Catholic Church, you had people before they were subject to a king, and the king was taking taxes for them for a variety of reasons. Because the king, because of usually some historical event, because remember, even they thought that their king was in a bloodline that was based on God, because you go back to some, and I'll call them the ancestors. You'll find some ancestors that was blessed to do something or defeat someone, and they thought that was an act from God. And then you have a bloodline that kept you connected to that bloodline as far as who's going to be the king.
Mm.
So the king, you can go all the way back into Roman days of them feeling that that was something that was done by, when the Roman days, by the gods. Then when you got the Catholic Church, it was still, or the church started developing, that there was something that person did to make them the king or the leader, and owned, because the king actually owned all of the land, and then he would make lords and things that he would grant them rights to the land so they could charge the people rent, and the people were working on that land. So that's kind of how the system of kingship developed. Now, when the church developed, especially when you're talking about starting with the Catholic Church and then to the Protestant Church, you have people now getting into their belief system and learning this belief system that came to them from the Jews. And people were actually, because of this system of paying tithes and others, they were giving other parts of their resources to the church. Um, and they were continually giving more and more money to the church. A lot of times when we see these stories, we see about how the taxes from the king were affecting these people's lives, but we don't see how monies they were paying to the church for things were affecting their lives. Because in most of the systems, and even in the Christian system, people felt that if you did something wrong, there was some type of uh, penance that you can do, and penance became not just prayers, but it became money. There would be something that you could buy. It's one time they even had things where you can go to the priest and buy to get this paper that absolve you from certain things. The priest could forgive you for certain things, and you would often give gifts to that priest for doing that. What this did then is it made the money that was coming to the church rival the amount of money that was coming to the king. And in many places, at the church was actually in a had more money than the king had in his treasure. And so there are even stories of how the kings of sometimes would actually go and rob the church of some of their money, and because people actually were more willing to give money to the church for things like being absolved of certain things than they were from getting money to the king. So a lot of those stories you see when there's a fight between the church and the king, is because the churches were racking in money, sometimes more than the money that the king was getting through taxes. And when they came up with this idea of the Crusades, where they were going to go and try to take over Jerusalem from the Muslims, because the Muslims had taken Jerusalem over from the Jews, and they came with this idea of the Crusades. Part of the reason that the Crusades happened is because people were actually willing to give even more money to the church to be able to try to win Jerusalem back. And so the church became like the bankers to even to help to, a lot of times you'll see over there call about these, what do they call them? Not just the Crusaders, but what do they call those things? Knights Templar. And Knights Templars were temple soldiers, because it was the knights who were part of the church. And it's because the church could raise more money to get more soldiers and to train them, and these go on these crusades to try to take back Jerusalem. So a lot of times these battles you see between the church and the king is because who had more money, who had more land, who had more control, and many times the
Oh,
priests in the church actually had more money and were better off than the king. And the king was also, I mean, the priest was also responsible for actually blessing the new king as part of that. So yeah, the church rivaled the resources of the kings in many of those stories. That's probably too long to talk about that, but are there any other questions? Other people want have any questions? I know. Um,
You were saying earlier,
mhm,
because I am a Leo, and I was telling you about the experience that I had this week with somebody coming on the porch taking my shoes,
mhm,
and I thank you for reminding me and letting me know that it wasn't the actual person, it was a spirit that got it in the person, but they
mhm,
thought that it wouldn't it'd benefit them, and probably thought that it wouldn't hurt me because the way I go through the neighborhood and correspond with people and give them this and make sure they got this and that and this, so they probably say, oh, he's not going to get upset, he's not going to be mad, but I did get upset. But the thing
mhm,
that I took from what you were saying, it was okay to be upset for that moment, to let that
mhm,
lion come up out of me, but then to come back and humble myself to know that said, okay, I'm gonna forgive him, but at the same time, I got to watch and I will pray. I got to stay alert because these things does exist,
mhm,
and to know that that person, they probably weren't even thinking. They just seen some shoes and probably wanted the sneakers and say, okay, I'm gonna take the opportunity because I can get away with this,
mhm.
but not even thinking when I got
Yeah.
up that morning to go to work that I was gonna be upset, felt violated, or emotional about what somebody had done came and disrespected my space, disrespected my property. But
Mhm,
once again, I thank you for putting that out there and really, because that's when I step up, the iron sharpen iron to let us know these things, because as Christians, we feel like we don't want to offend God, or we don't, like you was telling me, but that's not really offending God, because He had gave me that lion inside of me, that
mhm.
lion of Judah to rise up. But at the same time, as you were saying, Supreme Mother taught, okay, let the lion rise up, but be humble as that lamb too, as
Be
that
humble like that
lion.
lamb. Yes, yes.
Exactly. So I thank you for that.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That's what I said. We have to watch out for that lion spirit, because that lion spirit does make you brave, and it makes you have that willpower. Because remember, the other thing when we talk about is the key phrase for Leo is "I will," and it gives you that courage coming from having that willpower in life. But with that willpower, we have to watch that you still don't need to be destructive with it. And I said for mother is you have to be as brave as lions and as harmless as lambs. So you don't want to say that you have no willpower, because saying that you don't have that lion spirit in you, you're saying that I don't have my will is too weak. And God wants you to have a strong will. He wants you to have a will that's aligned. He wants you to be brave. But part of that bravery is, yes, there will be times when people do things to you and you have to wait and say, yes, yes, I can be brave. But I understand if someone is out there taking something from me, personally, the first impulse we get is they're doing it against me. But when you start thinking about it, they were doing it for themselves. They were being selfish. So when you see people doing things like that, you have to realize that they're doing it out of selfishness. And selfishness kind of means that they kind of like ignore what impact it's going to have on you, and they're just looking at what impact it's going to have, or they're just looking at how can I gain from it. They're not thinking about who's going to be hurt for it. They're just more worried about, am I going to be caught in this? Can I get away with this thing and not think about who I'm going to hurt? Anyone else have any thoughts? Because we're just talking about that king, and that king or that Leo influence that God has put in us to make us that roaring will that we have inside of us, and how we need to learn in life how to deal with that willpower. Because as I said, getting the real true Christ spirit within you, it's going to give you that lion type will inside of you. But you need to learn how to manage it. And managing it is how to make it where you can still be as humble as that lamb, uh, that you can use it and don't hurt others, but you need it to be able to help the world a better place. Any other thoughts? For a moment, I'm going to mute all of you. And we're going to go to this lesson of the lion. And remember, these lessons that I'm talking about are some lessons that I wrote um, some years ago in a newsletter we had that used to be called Hear Wisdom Calling. And in the beginning of these lessons, or beginning of that newsletter, each month I would write something about the sign for that month. In fact, I would do two lessons. One lesson would be about the symbol for it, and the next lesson would be about the commandment that went with that lesson. Just to mention, the commandment for Leo, for us, is to um, do good to others with all thy wisdom and strength. So it had the lion, and then it had this commandment that was talking about doing good to others. So the lesson reads, the lions are often used as a symbol of courage and rulership. They're carved on the entrances of royal buildings and heralded on the banners of the most courageous monarchs. Lions are even called the kings of beasts. What makes the lion worthy of such honor? It is not the biggest animal in the jungle. Elephants and rhinos are larger. It is not the largest of the cat family. Tigers grow larger than lions. Yet although lions aren't the fastest, nor the tallest, nor the wisest of animals, they are known as the king of beasts. For all the reasons that don't qualify the lion as the king of beasts, there are two overwhelming reasons that sustain it as a symbol of royalty. The lion has the look, and it has the roar. Visually, the lion, especially the male, seems to be outfitted. Uh, sorry, I don't know what's made. Visually, especially the male lion, seems to be outfitted in a golden robe, and its mane appears to be groomed by the angels. Its face looks stern, its jaws look powerful, its teeth look as if they could shred an oak. So in the lesson, we're talking about why, first of all, starting saying, why do we even consider the lion to be the king of beasts? Because And what it's trying to show is that the king is not always saying, I'm the king because I'm bigger than anybody else. I'm not a king because I'm not the tallest, I'm not the wisest, I'm not even the strongest. Because in the world of animals, there are other animals that if you looked at them, they would be the ones that have that quality that like tigers are bigger than lions, elephants are bigger than lions, rhinos are bigger than lions. So why does the lion get it? And part of it is that the lion has that look, and the lion has that roar. Um, to finish reading what it says in the lesson, it says the lion is a fierce-looking beauty, and the Hebrew word for this animal and the sign of the zodiac, Aryeh, comes from a root that suggests a violent plucking or tearing to pieces. Also of special note are other Hebrew words that mean lion, like lebeya and shashel. Both these words refer to the fierce roar of the lion. So it's saying that the way the lion looks and this sound that comes out of the lion's mouth are two of the things that make the lion this king, makes the lion, and saying this king, it actually, these are things that makes it so people actually follow behind them. There's something about that look of a person and or a thing, and something about a quality in their voice that actually makes people more inclined to follow it. And that's what we're saying with that lioness being king, that it actually implores people to follow that. No, it's an interesting proverb in the Bible that talks about, and this is a proverb from a parable from Jesus, where he talks about this small kingdom that was about to be attacked by a larger kingdom. And this king, saying that he was going to be attacked by this overwhelming force, went to a wise man who was sort of like this, you know, he was wise, but he was poor. He was not respected. Nobody paid any attention to him. But the king kind of knew that this wise man had the knowledge and wisdom that he would need to be able to overcome these people. And so the king actually did. He went to this wise man and called on him to actually give him a plan to be able to defeat this other king that was larger than him. And the interesting thing about the parable that Jesus tells is that after this wise man told the king and got the country saved from this other kingdom, it went back to the people who followed the king, and they again began to ignore the wise man. And this was always a strange story to me. I was saying, wow, you would think that they would have wanted the wise man, if the wise man had the knowledge and wisdom and understanding to be able to save them from the other king, why, when he had faithfully demonstrated the fact that he had the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to save them from the king, save them from the other kingdom, why did the people continue to want the guy who was the king to be the king and not say, let's follow the wise man? And studying this lesson on the lion kind of showed me why it was. The people, the 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 continents, the way this wise man carried himself could not sustain the people following them. That they would rather follow the person that had the look, the voice of the king. And they probably even said this, oh, see, the king would find whoever he needed. We don't want the wise man, because many times when people look at wisdom, wisdom does not encourage them as much as courageousness. And there are many people who are wise but they're not courageous at all. And so when that, especially when you're thinking the story and we're saying that the lion isn't the biggest, it isn't the fastest. You know, the cheetah is faster than the lion. You have all these things. Why then do you pick the lion? And you have to say that it's these qualities that attract people, these qualities that get people to move, that actually makes that person that lion. And I even say this is a lot of times when I even talk about the fact that we as Christians, because we have that lion spirit within us, many times people want to follow us, and we're sitting up looking at why are they coming to me? Why, there are other people in the office that seem to be smarter. There are other people in the office that seem to be bigger. There are other people in the office that seem to have so many other things, or some people around me in life, they have so many other things. Why do for some reason, people keep coming to me as if I should be the one that's leading them, if it's I should be the one that's trying to direct them or bringing their problems to me? Why are they doing this? And I say that part of it is that lion spirit, that will that you see. Because remember, wisdom is good, but what good is even wisdom if you don't have that idea of I have the will, I have the courage to keep going on? And for a moment, I want to pause. There's another, that this is only about halfway through the lesson, but I want to hear some of your other thoughts and see what your reactions are or what your comments or questions have to be about having that courage, that willpower to actually influence people to move forward. So I'm going to unmute all, and then there's a couple I think you would like to be with. So does anyone like to have any comments or questions about that lionness? No one? We got no lions out there, huh? I know we got a couple of, I think, go ahead.
I was trying to be quiet, but what came to me was when you said um, like people didn't look up to the king. I mean, why? It's like why would people follow somebody who can't lead them? I don't know. Was something you said about like that?
Yeah,
That
that
people
they were
followed the
following
person who couldn't lead them, and
that they were
and,
following the
and
king instead of the wise men. That the wise
right.
man came up, he did what he wanted to do, and then they just put him back on the street and
That's
continued
kind
to
of
follow.
what happened with Hillary and I hate to say it, but that's kind of what happened with Hillary and Trump.
Mhm. And why men sometimes, because you have to think, there's a lot of women out there who are continually voting for these white men to be in office because they have the what? The look. Um, and they think that they're more, many people think that men are more courageous than women. So they continually put them up to be in these positions. When you think about who has the most wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to lead, is not the person who's actually the leader. Someone else you had some more to say?
No, that's just what thought that came to me when you were talking about that.
Mhm. But that
Crazy.
uh, but it's crazy, but you need to understand how it works. It's something you really need to look at and say that people need to have that courage. Because again, wisdom without courage or wisdom without willpower doesn't go anywhere. Um, it doesn't, just because you know and you have no courage is not going to improve the situation, because there are many people who know and just because even in that story, when you think about it, why was the wise man rejected in the first place? Why did you have this wise man who was that nobody in the community even paid that much attention to? What was about him, even though he had the knowledge, like you said, he had the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding? Why was it that people know don't even, uh, don't follow him, don't make him the king? It was something that from his wisdom and knowledge and understanding prior to that time that people kind of know that's not the best person to follow. Anyone else have any thoughts? A couple. No, we got a lot of people muted. One is you're gonna have to teach you how to raise your hand when you're muted because there is a way for you when you're on the but I'm not doing the phones. But when you're on with the computer, um, or unmute yourself, you can hit the. Even though I have you muted, you should be able to unmute yourself. And for a second, I'm going to unmute all before unmute all before I go to mute all and go on with the lesson. So I'm going to unmute all for a second. See if anyone has any comments.
Father Tyrone.
Yes. How you doing? It's Troy.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So you had some comments you want to bring?
Hi, Father Tyrone. We just wanted to say good morning. We were having issues with you hearing us.
Oh, okay. I had y'all
we-
muted for a while. That's probably what it was. Did you have some things y'all wanted to say?
we were on the phone when you first muted. We were trying to speak to you even before then, and we were having issues.
Okay.
Okay, but we just wanted to thank God for just being here, and we wanted to just thank God for just having you to teach us, and we're being very enlightened by the lesson. If there's one thing that I could touch on, I forgot the other member's name, the young man who was talking about the shoes. Is it okay
That was
for me to
Deacon
elaborate
Ashley.
on that? Hello?
Yeah, you're talking about Deacon Jackson?
Yes.
You want him to elaborate about the shoes?
I wanted to elaborate more about shoes.
Okay, go ahead.
Because that situation happened to him, and I wanted to elaborate more because something happened to me and Troy, but on the opposite side of what happened to him.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. He came outside for his shoes to be missing, and for the feeling of what he felt as far as the shoes being taken away from him, and the anger and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And at times, me and Troy, we deal with a lot of different spirits when it comes to people and Jezebel spirits and all kind of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the opposite for us. We don't have people taking our shoes away. We have women throwing shoes on our lawn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And slippers on our lawn. They're bedroom slippers.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that shoes can impact in so many different ways. Shoes can be taken away from you, and shoes can be given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be so many different meanings for what's going on with the shoes.
Yes.
It's a form of someone wanting to take what you have, or someone needing what you have, wanting what you have, wanting to take your place.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's in that form too, or someone who wants to be in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a lot of different forms when it comes to shoes. So all I can say is what me and Troy do is we just continue to just pray on it.
Mm-hmm.
And stay close to God.
Mm-hmm.
And let God reveal to us, if God is willing to reveal to us what the meaning is, or let God manifest what God needs to manifest with the person that's doing, taking, or giving, or what have you, when it comes to the shoes. When it comes, because everything has its own symbolic reasoning for it.
Yes, and sometimes people are working with shoes in a wicked way. It's strange, but they sometimes the wisdom they got, like I said, all wisdoms are not uh, is not for good purposes. Some things are just done for wicked things, and many times some of the wicked things they try to do, they would try to do them with shoes. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I've even seen some when they think that they can use those shoes to make you walk away or go away from them by putting the wrong type of uh, wicked thoughts on shoes. And but you don't let them control you. You should have that lion-hearted enough that you don't let them move you with some of their weak and feeble thoughts. So yeah, you, because if you have that lion spirit, them doing crazy thing, if they're doing some wicked things with shoes, it will, like I said, no weapon formed against you will prosper. It won't prosper because you need to, because a lot of things that people do to you through wickedness, they are trying to get you to be fearful. That's their whole plan, is that you let the fear rise up in you. But like I'm saying, but if you are the lion or have that lion spirit of the Christ within you, there's no reason to fear. If you have the Christ or that lion within you, because remember sometimes the Christ or Jesus is called that Lion of Judah. If you have the lion there with you, why should you have to fear? You should be able to face life with courage. And that's what I'm saying. That's that kingly spirit. Not always, we always think that we need, like even at the point the parable is showing, we think that we always need the wisdom, but the parable kind of tells you if you have that courage or the king, that king can find the wisdom that you need to get rid of the thing and still be king, while that person with the wisdom, if they weren't respected before the incident, don't think that just because they were needed at a time that they're needed after the incident. Because
Right. I wanted to say something.
mhm,
You said earlier, we were listening. You said earlier you were talking about the lion and the lamb,
mhm,
and you were talking about the courage of the lion, the strength of the lion, the voice of the lion, the roar of the lion, and you were saying, but the elevation, from what I got out of what you were saying, but the elevation
mhm,
of the lion
mhm,
would be the lion basically turning, and I mean not visually turning into a lamb as far as appearance, but from within turning into the lamb and having the humbleness of the lamb.
mhm.
So when me and
That's the,
Troy,
mhm,
when we embraced when we embraced and saw the slippers, there was a time in my life that would have made me angry. There's
mhm,
a time in my life where that I would have been like, who did it? Who is she? This and that. But there was none of that.
mhm,
There was none of that. So there was none of that because I understood that that was done on purpose, and
mhm,
and me and Troy understood, and we understood that was someone who wanted to be in my shoes. But the
mhm,
humbleness of the lamb is what
mhm,
I'm relating to.
mhm,
The humbleness of the lamb is what I'm relating to, because there was a time that I would have been a lion,
mhm,
but I didn't feel that to be a lion. I didn't feel that I needed to be a lion. I
mhm,
and I think that is the comfortability um, of what God has now instilled in me from
mhm,
these teachings, and
mhm,
from from me trusting
Mm-hmm.
my husband, from me trusting who I am as a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you say, I'm just saying, I could see the difference in the elevation
Mm-hmm.
of me,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
was that lion at one time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have went to every neighbor or every other neighbor accusing them, did you do this? Did you do that?
Uh-huh.
But boldly. You
Uh-huh.
understand what I'm saying? But I didn't
Mm-hmm.
do that. Instead, I kind of laughed it off. Me and Troy laughed it off. We laughed it off,
Yes.
and we, wrapped it up in a bag and threw it in the garbage, you know,
Yes.
uh,
Which is
because,
what you should be doing. Mm-hmm.
right, right.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
So,
And
so
I don't
I
look at
just
so
want,
much as being, yeah, and I don't look at so much as being one or the other. I think when she's saying be as brave as a lion and as harmless as a lamb, that you
yeah,
need both of them. It's just like a bird can't
yes,
fly with one wing. Then we need to have that both. And one side you have that lion spirit, and the other one you have that lamb spirit. And you
yes,
know that you to fly you need to put both of them together instead of flying off and
right,
just saying, "Oh, I'm just going to be the lion and I'm going to use that courage to go around and find it." You start saying that, but this is petty. The things they're doing, they're just as someone
right,
who is being petty. And why should I
right,
waste my energy? Why should I use my resources to go and find a petty? Because as you're going around, a lot of times that person is glad because they feel that, oh, now I have the power to make this person run around looking for me. And
right,
they're more hurt when they're saying that they are looking at what I did as something petty and that they're not going to waste it's like saying that I'm too small to even be recognized. And that's something you have to see in life. You don't want to use your lion's roar to go chasing after lizards because some small incidental thing. You don't use the lion doesn't use his roar to chase down mosquitoes um, or chase away mosquitoes. He's actually using it for something for a higher purpose.
right,
So yes, we need, but it's not to me. To me, it's not saying, "Oh, I got to be a lion sometime. I got to be a lamb." No, you need to have those two wings that you're working with, so you can be able to balance and use them, use your resources to the best of your your for the most success in your life. Anyone else have any thoughts before we go to the next section of this message? Okay, I'm going to mute all for a minute and go more to reading some other parts of the lesson as it was written. It said, in fact, the lion's roar is so powerful that it is used as a hunting tool. The male lion sneaks to one side of the herd of animals, while the females in the pride sneak to the other. The male lion stands and roars. The unnerved herd flees from the roaring lion straight into the felines in hiding. The lion is a king because his look and voice commands response. The will of man is like the internal lion. When a person has a strong will, he can see it in their appearance. So when you have a strong will, people actually see it in your appearance. It says you can hear it in their voice. Many leaders think that they can obtain the quality of command by always looking angry, arguing, and making loud noises. If they only knew how they only chase people away from them, they might discontinue this practice. Remember, when a male lion roars at the herd, it is chasing its prey into the waiting females. All, I'm sorry, Her Holiness of Blessed Memory, Mildred Davis Miller, often told us that we must be brave as lions and as harmless as lambs. This means that you must stand strong, but you should um, not let people think you would harm them for personal reasons. So just trying to show that what we're learning from this lamb is to have that bravery in life, but you don't want to use your bravery to actually control or hurt people. You want to use your bravery to actually get the sustenance you need. Um, and to go on said, the 12th verse of Proverbs 19, the king's wrath is like the roar of the lion. That means it puts fear in the hearts and chase people away. So when you're talking about the just being wrath and being angry, you have to realize that that will actually chase people away if you use this lion spirit wrong. Yet the favor of the king is like the dew on grass, because this is the whole proverb. It says, the king's wrath is like the roar of a lion, yet the favor of the king is like dew on the grass. That means that if the king is gracious to people, he will sustain them. According to the Smith Bible Dictionary, during the dry season, dew was considered a major contributor to sustaining agricultural crops. To rule by fear will chase people away from you, yet to rule without courage would lead them to ruin. This principle applies to self-control as well as leadership. Courage and charisma are the foundation of self-control and awakening the higher spiritual consciousness. Wisdom is the pillar that keeps you upright. So here what it's saying that if you look at the whole proverb, it says, when it talks about the wrath, the king's wrath is like the roar of a lion, but it's saying that, but the king's favor is like the dew on the grass. With me, what it's telling us is to make the sound, that willpower that comes to you, not this wrath, not this anger that comes out of you, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could find to make that roar of that sound to come of you to be like the favor of the king, to be like a king telling you, well done. Because when it's saying, when the king uses that part of his willpower to show favor to people, it is like the dew on the grass. And it says that dew on the grass actually is thought to actually to nourish the grass, especially in the dry season. That sometimes the only water that that grass would be getting would be the dew. And so it's saying that dew on the grass, when that person is feeling like they're in that desert or in that dry season, the king coming and giving that willfulness that is sound in his voice can actually be something that nourishes them in the wilderness, in the dry season. So we have to learn how to use that courage we have, that spirit that the Christ gives us, to how we can actually use that to actually encourage people. I mean, one of the things that Jesus tells us that we need to be here to encourage ye one another. And for me, that lion spirit in us, that will spirit in us, can do more for those around us and for ourselves when we start trying to use it as it talking about that favor, using that favor that we get in our voice as a child of Christ, using that to be that favor, to be that dew, to be that nourishment to those around us. Is the whole proverb. A lot of times you take a proverb, you just take half of it, you might not get the full meaning of it. But and I probably was tricky that I started off by just giving you half of it. It just talks about the king's wrath is like the roar of the lion. But in the whole lesson, it tells you, but the other part of that proverb says, the favor of the king is like the dew on grass. So as Christians, we're supposed to be learning how do we use that favorable part of directing your will to someone, not to use it to be like the wrath, um, not using our kingliness or our kingship within us to actually tear and rip people apart, to instill fear in them, to run them away. And that's why I say people in business, we've talked about this before, people in business think that if they show their wrath, if they show that they're mean, if they show that they're hateful, that that's somehow going to make people work more. But if you really look at this proverb, you're only chasing people away when you use your lion spirit just to show your wrath towards people. But when you learn how to use that favor that the king can use with his words and use with his actions and use with the way that he even looks at the person, because this unfortunately, people think that that look always just has to be, talking about like that story about the emperor has no clothes, that he thought the clothes were so fine and elegant that this tailor was making for him, that if you weren't of high browedness, or if you weren't that aristocrat, you wouldn't even see the clothes. And so the king actually was going around naked, not knowing that he had been tricked. And a lot of times people think that it's that outside look that the lion is supposed to be telling us, but it's that inside look, that favor that you can show towards people through your attitude, through your courage, that can actually be like a nourishment to them in the dry season. But I'm going to go open the mic to see if someone has any thoughts they'd like to bring on what I've said so far. So I'm going to unmute all and see. So do we have any thoughts about um, that favor of the king? Not always just showing your wrath, but how to use your will to show favor and encourage one another.
Mm.
Any thoughts?
Mm.
Because we're trying to talk about the best ways.
Again.
Okay,
I
go
think
ahead.
what we have to do, like I said, in my case, I just move forward. I figure, I say, well, Lord, you are my battle. Like, why they did it, what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and how I'm supposed to respond. So what I did, I turned around, I sowed seeds. I went ahead and kept letting my neighbors see me do what I normally do. I ain't got time to go around blaming people and trying to figure things out, because then you make people feel uncomfortable around you. The ones that believe in you, they say, well, oh, okay, I see now that. So my thing is like this. I was more concerned about my 13-year-old daughter than I was about the schools, because I'm going out. I travel, I go to Miami, I go to Palm Beach, I go to Homestead, and when you don't know the motive, but I still turn around and trust God, because I know God ain't gonna let no more come on me than I can bear. So, I just try to be an encouragement, because He haven't given me the spirit of fear. He given me a power and a love and a sound mind, and I continue to walk into that. I continue to stay in that atmosphere, and not only that, He has given me an anointing, a great anointing, that I can pray. So, each individual is different. With me, I just seen the smallest of it, and I look at my walk and my relationship with God outweigh that smallest thing that I guess where a person benefit off it. Because like I was telling you, if I just felt they would have came and asked, they would have ended up with a better pair of shoes than the one that, because I wouldn't have gave them the shoes that I had been wearing with because I work in them shoes, but I would have offered to give them a better pair of shoes, because that's the type of person I am. That's the lion that's inside of me, But for anybody want what I have, I'm one of them believers. What's for me is for me. God already said that in His Word. What I have for you is for you. So, I'm one of them ones. I cry loud, spare none. I continue to do the Lord's work and continue to go forward, but I don't let nothing hinder me from separating me from God's will. And this is what we have to be careful about these things, because He never did say these things wouldn't come upon you. Because see, what I do have enough wisdom to know that trials come with wisdom, but also understanding too, God allowed Satan to try Job, and He will allow him to come and test you, because He looked for you to be able to withstand these things from the gifts that He have given you from the fivefold ministry. So I just bless God for the lesson, and the lesson truly is a moving lesson, but it's a teachable lesson, because a lot of people say a lot of things, and we say a lot of things, but we act different when it comes upon us with different things and different scenarios. So I just thank God for you for the lesson, and it's definitely an experienced lesson, and I thank God for it.
Amen.
I think it's because I believe some of these things we have to keep reminding ourselves for it because it's so easy to slip into the mindset of others when you think that you should use your courage, that lion, that will within you, to just go and chew up other people. And you have that courage, or I think we have that Christian courage. We have that Christian bravery inside of us, but it's for actually helping to nourish and how we can use that as a nourishment to others. Like as it says, as that favor of the king is like the dew on grass. That we need to find out how we can use that courage to nourish and encourage others, but not encourage them to do bad things. Because you don't want to say, "Oh, the person stole shoes, so we're going to be praying for them to get more shoes if they need them." No, you want them to be able to get the 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 will inside of them that they can afford their own shoes, or stop thinking that the best way for them to get shoes is to go around and take them for others. There's a much better feeling when you get things on your own willpower, your own volition, your own energy, than when you go around thinking that, oh, I'm just going to steal and cheat others and think I'm gonna go and just laugh about it. To me, it makes you mentally weak. It makes you spiritually weak, and you'll get into that mindset that, well, I can just keep doing this. I can keep doing this, and not knowing that all that time you're making yourself mentally and spiritually weaker. You're stopping blessings. Like you said, with the person who got the shoes, they could have probably got better shoes if they would have just came and presented the fact that they needed shoes, and instead of thinking, oh, I can sneak and get it. To me, when you're using lies and cheating, you can, and it's not that you won't end up with a lot of stuff, but you'll get a lot of stuff without actually being satisfied. So you're just in this vicious cycle that you keep trying to get more and more stuff, thinking that, oh, if I get more, I'll be satisfied. And I think that's what happened to people who, what it talks about the rich person, the person who thinks that it's just your riches that satisfy you, and they do things just to be rich, they end up not being satisfied. They get all of they get these piles of money, they get these piles of things, they have all this stuff, and then still have not found satisfaction. And to me, you really should be trying to say, how do you find that satisfaction? How do you find that peace within? And the laws and the ways of God saying that He not only gives you things, but with it comes that satisfaction. It comes that nourishment. How are you really nourished?
Right.
And if you have things and you're not nourished by them, what good is having them? And that's what happens to so many people who consider themselves rich. They have all of that money and yet have no satisfaction. The only satisfaction that they get in life is by thinking that others are less than them, which is not true. The whole satisfaction comes from thinking, I am better than the other person. And that does not, how are you better than another person? And the other person can walk around with less and be happy, and you got more, and your only happiness comes from seeing them down. So you actually spend your money to keep them down. You
Yes.
actually use your resources to try to keep them down, and you keep them down because you are not satisfied with what you got. And until you recognize
Amen.
that what all this that you got is not satisfying you, and if you make a system or help let the system work more naturally, where everybody can be encouraged, where everybody can get the benefit of even this great nation, that when people of all creeds and colors and races uh, get the satisfaction out of it, it will be more satisfaction for all rather than saying, oh, we just need this one group, let them keep all the money and then use this money to try to hold some other people down. If you're using your money just to hold down others, you are wasting your money. It is a waste because that's showing that you are not satisfied and you're holding them back because you think they are satisfied. Anyone else have any thoughts?
I just want to make one more point too. It's like when you were saying about President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He showed the world and the nation what they needed to see
Yes.
to just have their equal of a belief that they wanted him to be president.
Mm-hmm.
But what we didn't see that a man was getting into office that didn't do well when he couldn't get his way. He didn't strive good under panic and under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And now that the world is seeing this, they seeing that it is so easy to be led in a direction that you don't even have no recourse or what they ain't gonna be like. A lot of people have lost their homes. They have lost their savings. They have lost their lives. So much have been lost throughout this president and while he's been in office. So, and it was like you said, because a lot of people thought, oh, he'll be the best president because he had money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they feel, oh, okay, if we get a president that has money, we don't have to worry about it because he know how to do this and he know how to do that. But in reality, he didn't know how to do nothing because with the TV shows and everything, he had his way. He did what he wanted to do. But see, society is a whole different level. It's a whole different ball game. You know, you have to do stuff in decent order, and that's where he wasn't good at doing things. So he began to panic, and you see, this is why, with a few more things, why we end up in the situation that we enter. Maybe it would have probably been a better president, but they couldn't see that far. You know, we wanted what we wanted, and that's how people do things. And, you know, and this is why we have to be careful because we never know when things come upon us to see how we're going to react. That's what the next person doing. They ready to see how you're going to react under stress, how you're going to react under this situation, you know. Mm-hmm. So you never know. I may look up a month now, 3 weeks from now, and walk outdoors in the same way they was gone. They'd be back there because a person wanted to see, feel like, you know, this and that and this and that. But my thing is not to dwell on it, to go forward, which I have went for. So, you know, I just bless God because you have to know who you are, and most of all, you have to know who you belong to. And God belongs to me, and I belong to him. So it's not, you know, brothers that there, you know, because I dare not try to desire what nobody have. I just want desire what God have for me to myself with the desire that he want me to have, you know, and then that way, you know, you come in full circle. So blessing to everyone.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah. And sometimes we could just, you know, when those people get things, you can just say, you know, say goodbye to them because you know that God can bless you with more. And that's what I'm saying. People who still don't know, a lot of times they keep stealing. Because when we're talking about Trump being rich, his family became rich because of lies and cheating. And because remember, one of the things that I heard them say one time is Trump has lost more money than any other businessman in America. And they went that by one of his taxes. He has lost more money than any other businessman in America. And that's why no American bank will give him a dime. That's why he ended up in a Russian bank, because he has lost more money in his dealings than any other businessman. Now, because his family was so rich that even with that, he still has found ways to even continue to cheat people to keep bringing in more money. But he really, if he would have been a good businessman, he would have been richer than he is now. He would have probably been the richest man in America if he would have been a better businessman. If he would have just taken his money, he would have been richer than he is now. If he would just taken the money that he got and gave it to one of those financial planners to manage it for him, he would have been in a better shape than he is now. But he has that family history and he has that attitude that people like to think of as a good businessman. He has that attitude where he will keep telling you, you know, look at how many times he has to tell you how smart he is. He has to tell you how rich he is. And many things he's done it because he does not have it in reality. He is not truly that smart. He's not truly that rich, but he does have himself in a position that he can get people who do have money, like Putin and like some of the donors that were giving to the Republican Party, that they will keep pouring money into him. And to me, they're pouring money into a pitiful cause. Because to me, what he is mostly is pitiful, because he has gotten things through his life. He's gotten money from his parents. He's gotten money from other banks and from some of the real estate things that his fathers and others left for him. He's gotten all these things, and the pity is he doesn't know how to hold on to any of it, and he doesn't know how to be satisfied by any of it. He's only satisfied by what? By people coming to him and looking up at him as if he was someone great. That's why he loves to have the rallies and things, because that's where the people make him think that he is more than he is. He is a pitiful man to have all the things he have and still not be satisfied. And you can have, and I think God can give you much less, and they're giving other people much less than they're giving him, and yet they can find satisfaction in life. It's unfortunate that people think that, I said, you have to hold somebody else down to make yourself look like you're up. And what you're usually using is you're using a lie about yourself, a lie, like they use that lie about white supremacy to make themselves look that they are more satisfied than Black people. Um, and even though I know race is something that man has made up, God did not make races. God made all of us as human beings, not as different races of different kind. He made all of us as the same type of human being. But when we look at how man uses it, then we have this idea of races. But one race does not get more satisfaction than the other race. Now they can try to base it on money and say, oh no, this one got more money than the other one. Which one has more satisfaction? Which one has more creativity? Which one has more natural abilities or has shown more natural abilities in the real history of man? Not the made up history or the lies they put up, but when you start really digging into history, which ethnic group has actually shown more blessings from God than the other, and more satisfaction and more favor from God than the other. And I think you see that God doesn't measure his favor to mankind by how many dollar bills he can put in a bank. Anyone else have any thoughts? I think with no one else have any thoughts. I hope that's because you're thinking so much about the beauty of this lesson. I find this lesson something that I need to can keep going back and reminding myself, keep going back and reminding myself that the courage inside of you, the will inside of you can be used to bring favor to others, to bring encouragement to others, just like they can use it to try to bring fear to others. And I hope that anyone that's a leader try to learn how do you learn to encourage people? How do you be that type of king that can encourage others, that can inspire others to do things, and not the kind of king that think that I have to put everyone in fear and I have to make sure that that we have these different levels, that they're always looking up to me because I am putting all these oppressive things on them, that I have the power to hurt them, and therefore that they should then respect anything coming out of my mouth. If they learn how to use that favor of the king, they'll find to me that you'll get more out of people because inside of them, they will be encouraged. And when they're encouraged, they will be able to have more ideas. They will be able to have more strength to work through encouragement than to say that, oh, I can yell at them and make them do more work. I would love to say, well, you can just go out there and tell a person, well done, how good that is, or tell them how you like the things that they're doing. How can we use that favor of that king, that favor from your willpower to actually to grow a better world? And we're at the end of that part of the lesson, unless someone has something else to say. Any other comments?
Father Tyrone,
Yes, ma'am.
uh, I just wanted to say that um, I guess it has to start with what's within the person. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think the closer that they become to God, the closer that they let God work from within them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because sometimes some sometimes if all people have in them is venom,
Mm-hmm.
then 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 that's all they know to put out is venom.
Mm-hmm.
If so, I think it has to start with the presence of God within them,
Mm-hmm.
within them, working with their soul. Um, I want to believe that the presence of God is within all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that sometimes evil kind of takes a forefront. But I know that the presence of God is within all of us because God made us all. So
Mm-hmm.
God has to be within everyone somewhere. So I think that the presence of God within them, and them pushing the God in them forth, and them praying to God and believing in God, because a lot of people pray to God, but a lot of people, they say that they believe in, they have hope and that they have belief and this and that, but depending on their level of belief and their level of hope, um, we all fall short, but I think that has a lot to do with it. It starts from within first,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because
you
you
have to get
can't
that.
put something out that you're not manifesting within you first,
Mm-hmm.
or you're not willing to allow to come in. Because some people, they have that stone cold hard wall, and they don't allow God's grace and God's presence to come in or to manifest within them.
Yes. Yeah, they
I
build
don't
like
know if that
we just
sounds right.
yeah. For I think Mother used to talk more about the shell. They build like a shell around their soul, this hard shell, and a lot of times they try to think that this shell that they put around themselves, around the Christ within them, is actually protecting them from something, and it's not. They don't feel that they should be have feelings towards certain things, and you'll see in society a lot of times it has some wrong ideas, and one of those wrong ideas is saying, oh, don't get emotional. So what they're trying to say is they train themselves to not to seemingly not to care and not to react to things. They call it like a poker face, learn to have a poker face. So they're always trying to train themselves not to actually care about the things around them, to give them more of an excuse to do evil things. But you do need to learn how to care. You do need to learn how to encourage. You need to know that being cruel to others is not the best pathway to get progress. But you, unfortunately, in so much that they even try to show you in business, so much they even show you in TV shows, that you can be cruel. We talk about police brutality, but then how many of us watch movies about police officers being brutal and not even caring about the fact that they were brutal on what we watched? How many times have you watched a program about a police where he takes one of these informers, or and he beats on them, or he does something cruel to them and somehow forces them to give him that clue he needs to go on? In a way, you're training yourself to believe that, oh, that type of cruelty was necessary, when the real studies they do, even in interrogation, show you that punishing a person and being cruel and hostile to a person in interrogation is not going to lead you to the truth. Then how come we have so many movies that show you that these cruel interrogations of people actually do lead them to the truth? But when you look at the jails, you find the jails are full of people who have been wrongly accused, but not saying that it's the method we're using to investigate these things that may be wrong and off, that we're doing it in the wrong type of way. We're allowing the wrong type of activities to get to this, to get to the truth. But we need to learn better ways of interrogation. We need better ways of investigation, because now with some of the electronic things, you're seeing that more people, between DNA and these electronic ways of tracking people. I guess that's why they don't want, people saying, "Oh no, we don't want the government to get involved," because they will find through science ways to actually find out who really did the crime. We want them to use these old-fashioned ways of beating people and these old-fashioned ways of trying to trick people into telling the truth to make it work. Life can be better if we start using the truth as our watchword for getting things done. And when we start using the truth, we will start learning about that, um, uh, how we can use favor. And when it says using favor, it's again going back to how can you use love and caring as a way of encouraging people towards excellence, rather than thinking that you have to use a whip or some harsh words to get the best out of people. Because when you have to give a person harsh words, that person, just like we were talking about when something happened to you, when you do something harsh against the person, your first immediate reactions is a harshness back. And yes, we have to work on knowing that being harsh towards the person doesn't answer the problem, it doesn't solve the problem. How do you get them to see that there are better ways to obtain things in life than trying to be harsh to someone else? But any other thoughts? Because we're coming close to the end of our uh, um, scheduled time. But because I'll keep talking and take up everybody else's time. But the mics are now open. That if the only person that's not open is Teresa. I don't know if she's out there trying to say something. We'll just unmute for a while. And just say, does anyone else have any thoughts you'd like to bring? If not, I'll just like to remind everyone that we do have a website where you can listen to the recordings when I put them up. And that website is spiritualguidancetemple.org. But we do have the lessons put up on that website. Um, I don't think I did last week's, even though my wife did remind me. I still was got involved in other things and didn't do it, but I will get that one up and I will get this one up for us. So I'd like to thank you for being with us. And for our dismissal, I'd just like to say, may the love of God illuminate your way. May the will of God direct you each day. May the truth of God all errors depart. And may the peace of God forever dwell in your heart. Amen, amen, amen. And please remember to use your will to encourage, not to um, not to try to hurt or scare others into doing right. Turning off the recording.